Hope everybody's all right. We had two on this side. Now we're down to one. So left side's a little weak, ain't it? It's good to be here. Tim, you don't hear my car running out there, do you? I had to throw that in. I've done good this week. I've turned it off every time I got out of it.
If I see a car that's running anymore, I'm going to make sure it ain't yours, Jerry.
It's good to get old. You know why? When you get old, you're getting closer to the Lord, getting closer to home. And what was it Larry Burton said? He's waiting on his new body. Wasn't that what he said? He's waiting on his new body. It's a joy to get old. A lot of memories. Good and bad, ain't it? Anybody got anything to say this morning? Something the Lord's done for you? Just go right ahead. Y'all done? As Lawrence says. We're in lesson 8 today. We're in Isaiah 58, verses 6 through 10. Verse 6. Is not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the binds of wickedness? Well, we got plenty of wickedness around us, hadn't we? Everywhere you turn, everything's wicked anymore. It's getting like it was in the days of Noah, wasn't it? Wickedness across the land. God was going to destroy all of them, wasn't he? Noah found grace in his eyes, didn't he? To loose the bands of wickedness and to undo the heavy burdens. Seems like there's more and more people carrying heavy burdens all around us. And to let the oppressed go free. I'm glad we're free today. The devil likes to oppress every one of us. If he ain't, he will. You can count on it. Because he's always doing his job, which is evil and wicked. To let the oppressed go free, in that ye break every yoke. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, in that thou being the poor that are cast out to thy house? It's sad that we got poor people all across our country. Some of them don't even have enough to eat. Children going to bed hungry. And we're one of the wealthiest nations on earth. We spend billions of dollars on other countries. Something ain't right, is it? Billions of dollars on other countries. And here we got people have to get in line to get a bag of groceries or something. That's sad, ain't it? Something's wrong somewhere, ain't it? When thou seest the naked, that thou coverest him, and that thou hide not thyself from thine own flesh, then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thine rearward. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall what? He'll answer, won't he? But you got to be serving him, can't you? You got to be saved. Then we talk to him. He's our Father. Thou shalt cry, and he shall say, Here am I. If thou take away from the midst of the yoke, the putting forth of the finger in speaking vanity, and if thou draw out thy soul to the hungry, and satisfy the afflicted soul. Then shall what? Thy light rise in obscurity, and thy darkness be as the noonday. Brother Cliff, would you pray over the lesson, pray for the Sunday school teachers, and pray for me this morning? Amen. Thank you, Brother Cliff. Title of the lesson is Living Right Over Empty Rituals. I'll be honest with you, Shelby, it's not an easy lesson to teach out of. Brother Lawrence, I don't know where they got the title from, but but anyway, I might bring out a few things this morning. It's all good. All the word's good, ain't it? I'm not saying they picked out some scripture that you couldn't teach out of, but God can give you a little something out of all of it. Did you know that? If we serve Him. And I've been looking through it and meditating on it this week. And I kindly looked at this verse 8. Look at this verse 8. I might get a little off course today. But it says, Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thine health shall spring forth speedily. Now, I got to focus in on that health. Shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. The glory of the Lord shall be thine rearward, or the rear. God's got our back, hasn't He? That word is rearward. It actually means the rear part of a marching army or marching people. That's what it means. But I got to looking at this scripture here, and this verse 8, Thy light break forth as the morning, thine health shall spring forth speedily. You know, we look at the bad things in life, don't we? It seems like we don't look at the good things. We dwell too much on the bad things in life. But do we think of the good things in life? I was looking at something this week. We all see good and bad in our lives. And I got to thinking about Joseph. And I got one verse that I want to read to you. It's in Genesis chapter 45. Jacob. I said Job, but I mean Jacob. Jacob had good times and bad times in his life, didn't he? His brother was out to kill him. And he thought he was going to kill him when he met him. But God had mercy, didn't He? They fell on each other and hugged each other. That's forgiveness, ain't it? Yeah. And then he had 12 sons. And we all know the story of Joseph, how the brothers hated him, and how they sold him off to the Ishmaelites. And then they took an animal, killed an animal, and took his coat, the coat of many colors, and dipped it in blood. I got to thinking about Jacob, how they took it to him and how his heart was broken. In that he went for years, probably every day. He loved Joseph. But see, God had a plan in all this, even in the bad times. Joseph faced some bad times, didn't he? But God had a plan in it, didn't he? And how that Joseph went through these years, and y'all know the story. When they went to Egypt to get corn because there's a famine in the land. You know the story. And how that Joseph recognized them, but they didn't recognize. He was harsh to them to start with. And then he wanted them to bring Benjamin, the younger brother. Jacob did not want him to go. So they told him they had to take him. And how they put the silver cup in his sack. And Joseph said that he would be their servant. You know how the story goes. But yet, when Joseph revealed himself to him, he asked him about the Father. But I want to read something to you. You got to remember all the time that Joseph was hurting and suffering. This is what he said here in the last verse of chapter 45. I want to read this to you. And Israel said, "It is enough. Joseph, my son, is yet alive. I will go and see him before I die." Boy, wouldn't that... See how God can turn a tragic time around in our life? We dwell on the bad things. But do we look on the good things in our life? Do we look how God has taken care of us through the years? You know, I could work 55 hours a week when I was young. And Brother Lawrence, I could come home and get more work done then than I can get done all week now. You ever thought about that? I was healthy, but it wasn't always easy. I know when I ruptured a disc in my 20s, it was bad. I had 3 little kids to raise, and I had to work. And it got so bad that I would lay in the bed, and it went down in my left leg. My left foot wouldn't even stand up. It would just fall over. That's how bad it was. You're talking about your cane, Dramer. I had a cane. I had to walk with a cane too. And I still got the things hanging somewhere in one of my closets. But I ended up in the hospital for 8 days. But Shelby, would you believe the Lord was even with me then? I worked hard. It was hard work. And I hurt my back working there. I worked 35 years at Coca-Cola. It was not easy through the years. But I began to, when you're young, you recover quicker, Tim. You'll find that out as you get older. But I learned that I could go back to work. And a lot of people didn't know it. I wore a back support for years. And it helped me. And I could work. I could get the work done. Did you know I've been working for 60 years? You know, this verse right here says, "Thine health shall spring forth speedily." And I thank God for my health, that He gave me all those years to work. No, it wasn't easy. It was God's love and God's mercy that He looked over me, that I'm still able to work now. And I thank God that I don't have to get out there and lift and do things like I've done before. I thank my daughters that I'm able to sit down and work now. But I know again, when I worked at Hunter and Company, the wallpaper distributor, I ruptured another disc. And even then, God was with me because I was praying about it. When I ruptured the first one, my daddy and other people was praying for me, and I thank God for that. That I had health. And when I ruptured that second disc, it was rough. I had to be on my feet in that warehouse all day. I had 6 people that worked under me, and I worked right along with them. A case of vinyl wallpaper weighed 70-some pounds. It was bulky, and when I went to work there, I could pick it up and throw it on the top shelf, and some of them couldn't. But you know what? Even through that, God was with me. And I thank God. You know, I thought about, what about these people that didn't have health through the years? And I know this lesson may be about fasting, but what about those people that have never had no health problems all their life? And I've mentioned Nellie Richardson before. I'll never forget talking to her sister. She listened to our radio program every week. I never met her. She passed away. I never did meet her. But she loved the Lord. But her sister said something about her that I never forget. She was handicapped all her life. She couldn't do much. But you know what she told me? She said, Nellie never complained. Never complained. We complain a lot, don't we? We gather around here and talk about our aches and pains. My ear's still stopped up, but thank God He gave me another one. Maybe that's why He gave us 2 eyes and 2 ears. There's 2 holes in our nose. One side gets stopped up, the other can stay open. God takes care of us, don't He? Do we dwell on the bad things instead of the good? Look at the bad things that's going around us. Every week, every day, somebody's shot somewhere. Every day now, it's not every week. Somewhere around in our area, somebody gets shot just about every day. And then we hear car wrecks. 2 gets killed over here, 3 gets killed down here, 1 gets killed over here. Bad things all the time. But do we dwell on the good things? A home in heaven, a place of peace where there'll be no more death and no more pain. God's been good to all of us. You know, this verse 8 here says, then shall thy light break forth as the morning. I thank God for the light. The light come in my life at an early age. I was exposed to the gospel from the cradle on up. All I heard was prayer, people shouting. People were on fire for the Lord back then. And I was exposed to the gospel at a young age. I saw the light. You know, he wrote the song, I Saw the Light. Well, I saw it at a young age. But Brother Tim, I run from it until I couldn't run anymore. But I thank for God for that light that sprung up in my life that gave me peace and gave me happiness. That no matter what I face, God is going to be right there with me. It may be good, it may be bad. But if we could only see the good things in our life instead of dwelling on all the bad things. And I guarantee you we all see dark days in every one of our lives. We face losses. We face health problems. I mean, look at us here. We've all got some kind of health problems. Me and Hillis sitting up here talking about our sugar. Get a little age on you, next thing you know, you're too sweet. They got to give you a pill to get your sweetness down. You ever had anybody tell you that you were sweet? Well, I'm sweet. If I get too much sugar, I'm eating sweeter. Our health. Did you know when your health is gone, you have nothing else to live for, do you? Really? I mean, when your health is gone and you facing so many health problems, let's face it, you'll get to the place that you don't even want to live. Job was ready to die, wasn't he? He wanted to die. We'll never face what he had to face. He lost every one of his children. And then his wife turned against him. I mean, I'd want to die too. I said, Lord, just take me on out, please. Take me on out. I just can't take no more. And I think we all get to the place sometimes in life that I just can't take no more. And look at the people. It's like my nephew. I can't take no more. I'll just end it. A lot of people face that, don't they? But if we could only look at the good that God has done in our life. How many times has God blessed us and give us health that we didn't even think about thanking Him for? To give us health to work a 40-hour week. That we could get up every morning and put our feet on the floor. To have our health. Something Cody will never do. Why is he like that way? Well, God had a purpose in it. Why does one suffer all their life in a wheelchair, cripple? I don't know. God knows. They're here for a purpose. But I don't care how bad it is. If we're saved and ready to go, even through that, we've got hope. We have hope this morning that the world don't have. Because we know that this life here is just a vapor and poof, it's gone. How quick it is when you look back through the years that life passed away. The years passed fast, didn't they? But I looked through all those years that God gave me health to work, to raise my family, and even in the bad things, God was always there. We didn't see Him. It's like the footprints. Well, where were you? Well, I was carrying you. God carries us through the bad times, don't He? And I think of the briar patch. I've told it before. Me and Kenneth went over to Grandma's and he wanted to cut a trail through the woods. And he went through a briar patch and I didn't have no shoes on. And he said, get on my back and I'll carry you. He carried me through the briar patch. And since I got saved, I thought of the times that God carried me through the bad times. Do we forget those times? The children of Israel forgot them, didn't they? They got down there to the Red Sea. Well, they forgot about God had their back, didn't He? Huh? Do we forget about the times that God had our back, was taking care of us? I think we all do. And we begin to face a dilemma or something in our life, maybe it's our health problems or whatever, we begin to question God. Why? Why is this happening to me? But did we forget about the good times that God helped us? You know, I grew up in a time that people were happy. People talked to each other. We don't see that now. I saw Dreamer yesterday, went over there. She was over at Wendy's. She was laying across the couch. She had that cell phone, and I looked at her, and she was messing with some kind of game on there. People's mind is like it's in another world. People are not even happy anymore. What's happened to people? We've got our mind in the world. The churches are even drying up. The power of God has left the churches. Why? Because they have left their first love. We've got to the place that we're no longer thankful for what God's done for us. I want to read, I got a few more minutes. I want to read Isaiah. We in chapter 58. I think I'm right. I want to read 1 through 5. It's not in the lesson today. We're talking about fasting. If you've got your Bible, turn to Isaiah 58. I want to read these first 5 verses that were not in the lesson today. And I know I probably got off the lesson today, but that's all right. I had something on my mind. Verse 1, it says, "Cry aloud, spare not, lift up thy voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgression in the house of Jacob their sin." You know, sin has always been around, hasn't it? It's probably worse now than it's ever been. But verse 2 says, "Yet they seek me daily and delight to know my ways, as a nation that did righteousness and forsook not the ordinance of their God. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take delight in approaching to God. Wherefore have we fasted? Say then, and thou seest not. Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge? Behold, in the day of your fast you find pleasure, and exact all your labors." You know, fasting is really a thing of the past. Fast while you can. Fast when you're young. When you get on medication like we are, you can't fast. I'll say that because you taking medicines and stuff, if you don't eat, you'll be laying on the floor somewhere. We need to fast when we're young. Verse 4 says, "Behold, ye fast for strife and debate, and to smite with the fist of weakness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high." Strife and debate can get into church too, can't it? Somebody's always wanting to debate somebody. Strife. Strife in the home. Strife at work. Devil's working everywhere, ain't he? Verse 5. Is it such a fast that I have chosen a day for a man to afflict his soul? Listen to this now. Is it to bow down his heart as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will thou call this fast an acceptable day of the Lord? You know, God don't require us to fast 40 days and 40 nights, does he? I remember years ago in this church here that somebody would volunteer to fast a day every week. Y'all remember that? We don't hear much of fasting anymore, do we, Tim? Brother Hillis talked about pushing his plate back. God done some work too, didn't he? If I tried to fast 3 days, I'd be laying somewhere on the floor somewhere. But you know, even if we do fast when we got health problems and on medication and stuff, God would even be with us then, wouldn't he? Yeah. Yeah. If God told me to fast, I don't know where I'd push back my medicine or not. Well, I'm not going to take that medicine. But if he told me to fast, I would. Now, if he told me, he said, Jerry, you need to fast for 40 days and 40 nights, I'd say, Lord, I can't do it. Exactly, yeah. 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 What do we fast for? Did you know, I heard sermons. John Hill years ago preached a sermon. Brother Hillis, I know I'm running out of time. On fasting. It was a series of messages. I heard him on the radio, and I thought he done a great job. This was years ago, John Hill. And he said, there's a lot of things that take place when you start fasting. First of all, did you know that your body is dying? It's dying. Did you know what takes place after you fast for several days? Your body starts stinking. Because why? Your flesh is dying. You ever thought about that? He said you'd have to take 2 or 3 baths every day to keep from stinking. And when you fast 40 days and 40 nights, you're smelling. You got to be smelling because your body is dying. We're dying out to the flesh when we fast. And there's another thing in our humility. Humble. We got to humble ourselves. Brother Ellis, you can come on. I know we run out of time. Fasting is something that the body don't want to do.